folks, here we go. A very good morning to you and the rest of the world on this, a Thursday morning. Welcome to the Thursday edition of Good Day Grenada. I'm George Grant, and this morning I am delighted and honored to announce that we do have a new winner this morning. His name is Mr. Benedict Cador. Not sure exactly where Benedict is. He says, thriving Thursday to you. Well, it's a thriving Thursday. Beautiful morning, man. Beautiful, beautiful. Second place this morning goes to Mr. Chester Simon. I know where he is. He's out there in Switzerland. And Anthea has to settle for third place this morning. Peter Bishop comes in at number 4. Keep the race going, folks. Keep the race going. You give me something to look forward to every morning. Now, where do we go today? Well, by the way, Benedict says he's in Georgia. I think that's where Anthea is as well. Yeah? I think she's in Georgia. Yeah. So, first up this morning, we are going to read to you a piece, actually not just a piece, it's a statement that was issued by the Information Minister, Senator Simon Steele, yesterday. That's the current attraction in social media. Yeah, that's what everybody's abuzz with. And once again, it seems like our government is investigating itself. Public's been crying out, but this keeps on happening. And once we're through with that article, we're going to bring Mr. Baczynski on, Allan Baczynski. He's not oblivious to what's going on in this country, and I'm sure he's going to be very vocal this morning. So we are looking forward to hearing what he has to say. Well, we do every Thursday morning. You guys just can't wait for Allan to show up. And then the national report. We're going to wrap up with the national report this morning. Just let me do a little refresh here, and then, oh boy, you guys are out there ready this morning. Nice to see you. Folks, let's get down to business on this gloriously beautiful morning, for which we're so thankful. At least I hope we are. Now, here's the text of that statement that was issued by Senator Simon Steele regarding what happened at post-cabinet briefing a couple of weeks ago. And I quote, "A lot has been made in recent days about a number of instances which have led, in some quarters, to a debate about media freedom in Grenada. There will always be a healthy debate in the public space about many issues. However, the policy of this government relative to freedom of the media has been long and consistent. We may not always be right, but we're always clear. Freedom of the media and the deepening of the rights of the people are of paramount importance. These are the rights that we have sought to further entrench by our proposal for constitutional review, which remains an unresolved debate. In an earlier term, this government drafted proposals for a Freedom of Information Act and a stated media rights policy, both of which were rejected by the Media Workers Association at the time. The association was subsequently invited to draft its own document for consideration, but to date, a draft has not been shared with government. At this juncture, we renew that invitation for a draft Freedom of Information Act and media rights policy. Notwithstanding, government proceeded without condition to open up the media industry. It was also the new National Party administration that voluntarily divested its majority interest in what was a state-owned media company. Indeed, Grenada is the only country in the Eastern Caribbean and only one of two in the entire Caribbean community without an official state-owned station, radio or television. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell initiated the privatization of the then Grenada Broadcasting Corporation in spite of skepticism by his own colleagues. The policy of this government remains that the media in Grenada must and should continue to operate under the absolute freedom of the law, the absolute freedom that the law allows. Yeah, its own rights being matched by its inherent responsibility to demonstrate accuracy, fairness, and balance. In some situations, as happens everywhere in the world, there may be robust debate and contention among reporters and government officials. But this natural tension should not be seen for more than what it is. A reporter, an official, or private citizen, everyone has a right to their views on any topic without the other party regarding it as a threat to their own freedom or a challenge to their responsibility. As the elected administration, we understand that we have an even further and deeper responsibility to openness and scrutiny, because this is simply how democracy works best. A clash of styles in any situation should not be interpreted as anything more than that. And worse yet, it must not be interpreted as policy. Additionally, disagreement should never lead to hostility. In this social media-driven environment, there is also a danger to overanalyze every incident in private and public life. Grenada's practicing journalists can probably attest that today they have more access to government officials than at any other time in history. Generally speaking, reporters are in no way limited to the questions they ask. In relation to the weekly post-cabinet briefings, like with every situation, there is a management challenge because of time and the desire to give as many reporters as possible the opportunity to ask their questions. Some reporters, by the nature of their personality and sometimes their experience, are more forceful than others, and without meaning any harm, may end up taking more time, leaving other reporters without the opportunity to ask their own questions. We have listened to practicing journalists who had previously complained about the poor management of some of the government-organized media events and their own lack of opportunity to ask the questions that they wanted. It was in this context that we have been exploring ways to make the exercise fairer, more reasonable, and accommodating to all. And this will always be a work in progress. In relation to the matter reported about the Minister of State with responsibility for information, we are satisfied through our investigations, including talking to reporters, that there was absolutely no physical altercation. What has been reported on social media has grossly misrepresented the truth and has, unfortunately, led to comments and concerns by members of civil society purported to be based on fact, when this is not the case. It is interesting to note that to date, none of the traditional news channels in Grenada have reported that what was put out on social media. Have we stopped to ask why? Or have we simply rushed to judgment? Government accepts responsibility for not adding clarity to this matter up until now, because our investigations revealed that what was stated in social media was not predicated on an actual occurrence. There is no doubt that there was a disagreement about perceived style and approach in the overall context of the situation at the time. But the investigation was clear that there was no altercation. It is important to note that the senior minister from whom a response was being sought proposed to accommodate the question in spite of the ongoing disagreement between the reporter and the junior minister. It is our hope that this further elucidates our position on media engagement. Government as a whole reaffirms its commitment to open and constant engagement with the media, and by extension, the general public. Okie doke, okie doke. Now, that, my dear friends, was the text of a statement that was issued yesterday. I got that sometime yesterday afternoon from the Minister of Information, Senator Simon Steele. Let me get back here. Let me get back here to social media for a minute. Oh boy, you guys are busy this morning, aren't you? Ashton Fletcher is saying good morning from Louisville, Kentucky. Sawandi Fabio Sam is saying good morning. Anthea Rullo is asking, where in Georgia Benedict Cador is? I thought that might pique your curiosity, Anthea. And he says he's in Powder Springs. Okay. Joyce E. Smith is saying, good morning. Osmond Lewis doing the same. Benedict Cador says, I did not hear the whole statement yet, but I'm already laughing. Claude Putnam is saying good morning to all. Bernard Gilbert is also saying good morning to you guys. Kipling is sending his blessings. Patricia Wilson said she needs more volume. Huh? You want volume? Take that. Okay. Andrea St. B. Mitch says, a clash of styles, eh? Yeah, that's an interesting comment there, my friend, Andrea. And Margaret Francis says, more access to government officials? Which media or journalist has that total access? I'm going to address that in just a minute, Mags. Thank you so much for bringing it up. Joyce E. Smith says, do they practice what they preach? Asking moi? Nah. Michelle Forsythe saying good morning. And Margaret Francis says, any question? Why did the press secretary shut down the news conference when she didn't like the line of questioning? Hold your horses, Mags. I'm going there. Hold your horses. Benedict Cador is saying hi to Michelle. Margaret says, that Simon Steele really think what they give we to rub, we eat. Where is the video that was rolling? Um, Bernard Gilbert says, fishermen never say their fish is rotten when selling. And John Nosy Neck says, re-government investigation response, a passing relationship with the truth by the government spokesman. Mr. B, be quiet, Mr. B. Kipling Francis says, is minister propaganda talking about what goes on in Grenada? Really now? Is he telling the world that the majority of Grenadians are all dumb? What a shame. Velma Hutchinson Daniels is saying good morning to us from Orlando. Donna Joseph saying good morning to you guys. Paley Darbo is there as well. Michelle Forsyth says, so, was the question altercation or battery? Altercation is a noisy quarrel in public. Battery is physical. Is that not proven by the videos? Antheorello says, I'm confused. So for all who saw the incident, they must have been blind. This is a pastor. Okay. Henry Steele says, words are very powerful. They can knock you down, especially if you're a woman. And more especially if the words come from a fatuous, arrogant, knucklehead, egotistic pastor. So says, oh boy, which university did you go to, Henry? Let's see here. Anthea says, I'm confused. So for all who saw the incident, they must have been blind. This is outrageous. Now, folks, you know what? I ain't going to waste any time here. Let me get to this young man. The young man I'm referring to is a gentleman by the name of Mr. Allan Baczynski, who kindly graces us with his presence every Thursday morning. I'm just wishing that there he is now. There he is. Okay, good morning, Mr. Baczynski. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Mr. Grant. How's the sound?
Oh, loud and clear, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Well, let's get right to it.
Well,
I am not going to spend time trying to interpret what Simon Steele has put out because I don't know that while it has come under his name, that he is actually responsible for writing it. Given the lesson of instruction that was previously circulated by the individual I referred to previously as Sarah Sanders, but now I'm beginning to think more of as Kellyanne Conway, because what we saw in that statement put out under the name of Simon Steele actually attempts to disseminate a series of alternate facts. And as you well know, that phrasing was originally employed by Kellyanne Conway. So for anyone who actually has listened to what takes place in the parliament or at the post-cabinet briefings, it is clear that that long statement consists of a number of alternate facts. And I'm not going to dignify it with a detailed response. I will leave it to the journalists. So, for example, I already have noticed that my neighbor in Richmond Hill assuming that Monjaloo and Richmond Hill are close enough to be neighbors, but nevertheless, Sandra Ferguson has written a detailed response to some of these statements which have been put out. I see that a professional journalist, Beverly Sinclair, has addressed Sarah Sanders or Kellyanne Conway, take your pick. And so I'm going to leave Simple Simon where he is because on a previous occasion I have gone to great lengths to explain that we have a long tradition here of not believing official government statements. Going back to the 60s when we had Radio Lionel, and then from 79 to 83 when we had Radio Free, in quotation marks, Grenada. And so from time to time, I think when you were there, the Grenada Broadcasting Network or the whatever the name was previously, for a
Grenada Broadcasting Corporation.
corporate GBC. So for a time there was a relative freedom where self-censorship was not overtly practiced, as appears to be the case today. In fact, I remember fondly that when they were operating out of temporary premises at the junction of Observatory Road and Lucas Street, that on Wednesdays I was invited to go and talk about Calypso. And we would have a good time, Godfrey Augustine and myself, playing old time calypsos and remarking on the fact that a lot of what had been sung about in the past in Trinidad, in Antigua, and even in Grenada appeared to be repeated by persons in public office. And it was a source of some amusement for us and for our listeners. Now, I refer to the Grenada Broadcasting Corporation, as you have helpfully advised me, because I think you will also remember when they were at Monjaloo, up the road from me, the old TV station. Now, 15 years ago, that property was demolished during the passage of Hurricane Ivan. And so a massive investment that had taken place there. Above ground, you could see a very large diameter satellite dish. Below ground, there were, I suspect, cables and all sorts of infrastructure, which cost certain investors a lot of money. Now, those were the days when we had just embarked on deregulation of the telecom sector. And as usual, a minister of government was charged with the responsibility of issuing licenses. So to the best of my knowledge, at least 4 providers were issued with licenses, each of them under the impression that this market was going to be able to support all of them. And so I think that one was called Global Network Providers. And I don't know who the investors were, other than to say that some have left the jurisdiction. One, to the best of my knowledge, who put in a lot of sweat equity, has died. Another one, I believe, has found greener pastures abroad. And so the property, and I don't know to whom the property belongs, but after 15 years, I see that a piece of heavy equipment is parked on the premises and that demolition of the buildings has started. A little bird told me that this is where the headquarters of the National Disaster Management Agency will be relocated to. Now, I can only hope that by the time they get there, that the person in charge of national disasters will have been replaced so that he should stay in Richmond Hill, but a little lower down, if you get my drift. The accommodation there with rooms with a view. Now, the issue of press freedom, which is taking up a lot of time. It's on social media. But I want to caution all of you, if you need to be cautioned, that social media is a dangerous arena. Just earlier this week, we had some heavy rains. Some idle people started circulating photographs of flooding in Grenville and River Road, which date back to the 1st of August 2018. In fact, one of them reached St. Lucia, and a colleague there sent me a copy of this flooding taking place and asked me, what is going on in Grenada? Well, it took me until the following day to figure out, well, no, River Road didn't flood this time. Grenville clearly was not flooded to the extent that appeared to be the case in the photo. And so you have these idle people sitting down for whatever reason, flooding social media with inaccurate or downright malicious information. So again, you have people who have been putting out on social media all sorts of conspiracy theories about the purpose of the visit of the hospital ship. Again, ask yourself, when you see who the conspiracy theory is coming from, whether or not they have a vested interest. So if, for example, you have a Cuban-trained dentist who is closely associated with the ruling administration and ought to know better, promoting conspiracy theories, it is because one could reasonably conclude that she doesn't want her potential dental patients going to get free service on board the US hospital ship. What is more difficult for me to understand is how it is possible that you have another close associate of the ruling administration who is in the Senate, is not a medical practitioner, and who would seem therefore to have no vested interest, would likewise be suggesting that people need to be careful, and that individual in particular wouldn't be going on board and not giving any samples of blood, because you never know what they could do with it. They might give you Zika, they might give you chikungunya, God forbid, you might even get syphilis. On the other hand, though, you have been no doubt informed that a delegation from the Grenada Tourism Authority managed to find themselves on board. It has been suggested to me that they just went there to see if they get free food. Because for the life of me, I don't know why the Tourism Authority would have a delegation on board the hospital ship, what they went there to see. Because separately, I am told that the various honorable ministers went to tour the facility. Perhaps, I hope that the pictures that the tourist board took will be sent to the Ministry of Health so that they could see what real facilities look like, instead of them continuing to try and mamagai people talking about they can't have meat and chicken and supplies and whatnot in the hospital because who thief in it? No. You will realize that my pressure going up, because I am tired of these individuals trying to mamagai Grenadians. Why is it that these people who have not benefited from advanced education, so that, and I say they haven't benefited from advanced education because they feel the rest of us dunce. We are not dunce. We have access to the same internet. We have access to the same news. And everything that Olliot tried to prevent us from finding out information is doomed to failure. Because it doesn't matter how many Kellyanne Conways and Sarah Sanders and Simple Simons you have, the truth will out. We are not living in the dark ages. And so, I will say that continue to focus on the real problems. The problems that you cannot deal with have to do with controlling the spread of ideas. You cannot control the spread of ideas. Therefore, your time would be better spent in dealing with the infrastructural issues. Deal with the fact that you've opened the schools and allegedly there appears to be a shortage of teachers to staff the classrooms. Deal with the fact that you have a shortage of staff at our hospitals. Deal with the fact that if you place an ambulance on the western side in the police station in Guelph, you cannot have a driver who resides in Cloget. It makes a nonsense of the idea that the ambulance will be able to respond to emergencies. If you are constantly engaged in driving up and down with sirens and outriders and official cars in order to get from point A to point B, but you refuse to deal with the fact that the public road is continually obstructed by individuals parking their private cars in the public road because they have nowhere to park their private car. Deal with them. Get the wrecker out. Charge them for obstruction. Simple things. Fix the potholes. I am tired of hearing about all of these PhDs because I now have become a pothole dodger. That is my PhD. I have to be extremely careful when I am riding my two-wheeled conveyance because I was pulled over by a motorcycle patrolman earlier in the month, ostensibly to check license, insurance, registration. Fine, I have no objection. I wish they would do more of this. But to my amazement, I was informed on inspection of the license that was issued by the competent authority at the Inland Revenue that my G-class license, which I have held since 1980, and G is all class, the motorcycle cop informed me that all class does not include motorcycle and motor scooter. I said, true? So you mean to tell me all these years now I am driving illegally? I was then informed that the regulations changed, but the license that they issued didn't change. Well, at this stage now, I am wondering which lawyer I am going to engage, because if he charge me, his courthouse we going, and I win already. Anyhow, I was not charged, but I was referred to the traffic department, whereupon I was informed that in fact certain regulations have been passed and that the licensing authority at the Inland Revenue hasn't been able to keep up to date. And I was issued with a paper addressed to the Inland Revenue and the licensing authority instructing them that as the holder of an all class license, they now need to issue me with an A class to authorize me to ride a motorbike or a motor scooter.
Ah,
Well, on the face of it, all class means all class. So I don't know where we're going with this one. I will keep you posted as to what is going on with the law and me.
I can't wait for
And
you.
I wish you a good day.
Well, you ain't going anywhere, sir. Let me tell you right off the bat, you ain't getting off that easy. Because, Mr. B, I've been sitting here very quietly, no interruptions, because I have a few things I want to say this morning. Not only have I been making a lot of notes about what you've been saying, but before I get to my piece, I just want to share some of the comments that came in while you were speaking. John says, and sadly, the other stories are being forgotten, such as cell phone gate, security detail, etc., by all the attention deflected now by this press farkas. Donna Joseph says, ha ha, yes, Mr. AB. The disaster who is in charge of the disaster agency really needs a room at the best free hotel with the best view on the island. So says Donna. Okay. I'm scrolling down here very quickly now. She also says, Mr. Aby, the tourism people gone to the boat for the photo opportunity that they can, so that they can alter it and post it onto their website to attract tourists in a make-believe way that Grenada has state-of-the-art healthcare facilities. Oh my gosh.
Good one.
They're creative out there this morning. Anthea Rallo says, that's the real problem. They're feeling large and in charge, and they're blatant with it too. John says to you, Aby, no shortage of police, you notice? He also says, Margaret says, regulation change, but license ain't change. How so? I'm confused. Cullen Bubb says, George, on the minister's response to Callistra, this is a textbook example of terrible damage control, almost 2 weeks later. So Senator Simon Steele is asserting that the government conducted an investigation of itself and exonerated itself in the Callistra Farrier Winston Garraway matter. Not a police investigation, not even an independent investigation involving members of civil society, but an internal investigation? An internal investigation administered by whom? Mr. Garraway himself? Was Callistra interviewed? Were surveillance camera tapes reviewed? Was the CID involved? Has their investigation warranted an independent review by law enforcement? And will we see the transcript of their investigation? Okay, AB, my turn. Mr. Brzezinski, a couple of days ago, I was asked to participate in an online program called Ride Along Live with Junior George. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but I think a lot of our viewers have. It's something similar to what we're doing here right now. And I made it clear that I was a little bit befuddled by the emphasis being placed on the so-called alleged assault that took place at that post-cabinet briefing. let's assume for a minute that there was an assault or battery or whatever you want to call it.
Well, actually, it's important to make the distinction. The assault can be verbal. When you have battery is when there's physical
All
contact.
right. One way or another, Mr. B, if that was the case, it was wrong, it was deplorable. Let's set the record straight. But, AB, I saw some more serious issues dealing with the control being exerted on the media in this place by government. You can twist that around to say the infringement on freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of whatever, freedom of the media. Maybe that to me is the big issue. And then when I read this man's statement yesterday, it made me sick. And here's why, AB. He says, reporters are in no way limited to the questions they can ask.
Oh yeah, I don't go there.
Where has this man been? Didn't he hear about the incident where Ms. Farrier tried to ask the Prime Minister a question about his marital status? No? Didn't he hear about the issue with the U.S. ambassador to Barbados in the Eastern Caribbean when Farrier tried to ask her a question? And the list goes on and on and on. AB, AB.
As I said, George, alternate facts.
This man also says, and I'm pulling an exact quote, it says, he's talking about the reporters. He say they have more access to government officials now than at any other time in history. Baby, you know, I work alone, so I don't have the time, but if I did, I would go back and pull up the scores of programs I have done on my platforms where I have had to go either on camera or on microphone and tell the Grenadian people, look, I call so-and-so minister and I try to get that information, and they ain't giving me. They're not answering the phone. You leave a message, they're not returning the call. You leave a voicemail, they answer the voicemail. So what the heck is this man talking about? What is he talking about? And you know what? I just may prove it to you this weekend, because you know what? When I finish here with you today, AB, I go in and phone him. I go in and phone him and ask him. And he's not going to answer me, so I know it's probably going to be a wild goose chase, but it's a chase I'm prepared to go on, to try and reach him, to invite him. Come and sit down in that chair here Sunday morning and explain that.
I would like to find out what is the record of government answering questions in the Senate, because I think you will find that there is a history of questions being put forward.
Sitting after sitting after sitting.
Not getting onto the order paper. So there's never any response because the question is never properly put. I think that is a pattern that has been demonstrated over the years in Parliament. But I speak subject to correction. I'm sure your colleagues in the media fraternity could confirm this.
Yeah. All right, maybe.
But what is constraining your colleagues? I don't understand it, because I don't think that they are prone to the wearing of tight clothing in order to appeal to any particular constituency. I mean, I would expect that if you're closed tight, that you have to keep moving. You just can't sit down. The danger with that, of course, though, is that when you find yourself in the situation where you really need to stand up, You have to see Alice.
All right. Thank you, AB. Now, let's get serious. AB, you have known me for a long time, and I think you know that I do the best that I can to be accurate in whenever I report something. AB, we have heard one side of this story, and that came on Sunday from Callistra Farrier. All right?
Yes, I saw that.
Okay. About 15 minutes before I went on the air this morning, I called a friend of mine who's a reporter. I'm not going to mention her name because I have to protect these kids. And I asked her if she was at that post cabinet briefing. No, she wasn't. Okay? Have you spoken to any of your colleagues who were at the briefing? Yes, several of them. Okay? Was the report that we are hearing from Ms. Farrier accurate? Accurate. You know, if you saw the program Sunday, you saw where she mentioned that apparently this gentleman swung his left
Yeah.
arm back, and that's how she fell to the floor. Okay? And you know what this reporter said to me? Said to me, Mr. Grant, not one person saw that, and there were several of them there. Not one of them saw this woman being pushed to the floor. Not one of them, AB. Okay? I said, so what do you think happened? She says, Mr. Grant, I don't know. I was not there. But everybody I've talked to said the same thing. They did not see this woman pushed to the floor. It's not true. So I said, oh my God. Go ahead.
What I would like to hear, because I haven't heard it yet, is the audio recording of the verbal assault, including the rebuking of the devil.
For entertainment
That,
purposes.
oh man, that will be fantastic to listen to.
Well, I asked this reporter if there was any video. She said yes and no. She said the post cabinet briefing had already ended, and this happened at the end after the reporters had shut off their cameras and all of that. But apparently, when GBN found out that something was happening, they rushed and tried to make sure that they could get some footage. Okay? She said they got more audio than video. But the minuscule video that they got does not confirm the reports that we've been hearing in social media that this woman was pushed to the ground. Okay? AB, in the interest of fairness, I felt that it was the proper thing to do to sit here this morning and tell you the other side of the story. Here's a note from Benedict Cador saying she did not say she was pushed. She said she fell as a result of him swinging his arm. And that's what we were talking about. We saw that in the, that's up on
And
the website.
that's the difference between assault and battery.
Okay. Now,
Yeah. And again, the photograph that has been receiving wide circulation has been described by Ms. Faria herself as saying that that photograph was taken when she was getting up
yeah,
and was holding the recording device out in order to record well, let us say the ranting of the Minister of Information.
yeah.
So this was her coming up, not going down.
All right. Well, social media has taken this to the nth degree because what you're hearing a lot of people out there talking about is this woman being pushed to the ground. She did not say.
She didn't claim. She didn't make that claim.
She did not make that, as Benedict is pointing out here, and Margaret says she agrees with Benedict. But Avi, something went wrong, and I think we're missing the real issue here. It's not
For,
about
for
whether the
people for people who were in that room to have seen nothing defies credibility.
it does. It does.
And also, the photograph does show one of the individuals who apparently wanted to respond to Ms. Faria's questions behind the minister, being shielded by the minister. Being shielded for what reason? I don't know that journalists constitute a threat to national security. In any event, how is it that only one government minister seems to warrant all of this security detail? I don't know. I thought this was the most popular politician on the island.
You know, again, it opens our eyes up to something you said a little while ago about social media. And just let me share an example with you. Somebody sent me a video a couple of days ago about the five most dangerous fruits that we in the. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, what a load of rubbish.
Croc. Croc. I think one is a star apple, another one is a sugar apple, another one is pawpaw, and I don't remember what the other two are. And
This
nicely,
this this looks like the type of thing that would be circulated by Dr. Mumbi.
Doctor Who?
Dr. Mumbi.
Yeah, yes, Dr. Mumbi. Yeah. I've seen her. I've seen her. Well, listen, when I got that video, I was concerned, so I decided, let me check it out. I contacted the Food and Nutrition Council, and they, in turn, have contacted the Pan American Health Organization about this. Baby, there ain't no truth to this thing. Apparently, folks, for those of you
But
for those,
but
hold on
all
a
of us
second,
know
Abe.
that
Hold on.
because we consume these fruits regularly and we don't dead.
I would have been dead a long time ago. Folks, what this thing is saying is that these five fruits could not just cause you illnesses, but could cost you your life. Okay, five popular fruits here in Grenada, and the video was beautifully done. I have to admit. Okay, beautifully done. Margaret says, what went wrong is a blatant attempt to stifle the free flow of information that was of importance to the senior minister's constituents. Absolutely, Margaret. And that's the point I made on Right Along Live a couple of days ago. That is the real issue. Kipling says some people would always find ways to twist the truth to suit their ulterior motives. Well. Pele Darbo says five fingers is another one of those fruits.
Yep.
Frankly, I certainly don't even miss five fingers. That's a fruit I just have no taste for in my life. None whatsoever.
Carambola. You
Caramba.
probably get carambola juice and you didn't know it was five fingers.
It's possible, but I just can't take it. Can't take it. Anyhow, B, that's where we stand this morning. What do you think is going to happen from here on? She said she's reported the matter to the police.
Yes, well, we will see because I think we're still waiting for the results of the investigation into the marketing board.
We still awaiting the investigation into why Panorama was canceled a couple of years ago.
Into which one, sorry?
Why Panorama was canceled a couple of years ago.
No, what was the story, that one? The report had been concluded, but somebody didn't sign it. Whatever. But I'm not too worried about Panorama, to tell you the truth. The steel bandsmen, good for themselves. But the issue with the marketing board is of particular interest to me because I want to know who were the middlemen who set up the procurement agency in Miami and whether or not that procurement agency was used to procure for other state-owned enterprises, and who were the people signing off on all of this? Certain people in this country have a poor record when it comes to accountability. That is presumably why you can't find a copy of the Worrell Commission of Inquiry anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I asked a very credible source for a copy. I found out that a certain source had a copy of the Worrell report, and I wanted it to publish on my site because people have been asking me for it. And the person, sure, sure, okay, I'm going to send it to you. That was about 3 months ago. Hasn't reached yet.
Yep, there's a reason.
Yeah, yeah.
As the commissioner, I think his name was Lindsay Worrell, as he said, he found it passing strange that the same set of names keep repeating everything he was investigating.
Yeah. Michelle Forsyth says, I don't think we should waste time to discuss that video. Once you hear about 627,000 people already dead in St. Lucia, does St. Lucia have that much of a population? It should be discredited, and Facebook should be notified. Mango, 5 apples, sugar apple, etc. Yeah. So obviously Michelle has seen that video. Regarding my question here about what's going to come of this whole thing, Samantha McFarland says nothing will come of it. Yeah, she's probably right. All right, AB. All right, you know what?
Today I am informed is listening day. So I want to encourage you to keep listening. You never know what you might hear.
I was just going to ask you, what in particular would you like me to listen to this morning?
Anything.
Yeah. Okay, Margaret agrees with, I guess it's Samantha here, that nothing's going to come of it. She says her sentiments exactly. All right, Abby, you know, I can't believe it. You got on here at 20 after 9 this morning. It's 3 minutes to 10 o'clock. Woggle?
Yeah, it looks like you needed to get a load off your chest.
I had to get a load off my chest. Because, you know, I didn't feel very comfortable on Sunday with the interview. Especially since so many people were reluctant to come out and speak. And you know, you asked the question a little while ago, why are people afraid to come out and speak? AB, a lot of these youngsters in the press corps today, one, they're not prepared for the task that they have taken on, but they're under heavy manners with their managers. I mean, the electronic media, radio and television, for example, you find that a lot of people who have licenses because they support the administration.
Correct.
Okay? And so they are under the heavy manners of the administration. And damn if those managers will allow these youngsters to go out there and jeopardize their freedom.
Yep.
Their source of revenue. Yeah. That's what we've come in the media. But I'm also concerned that, like I said on the program Sunday, I'm not sure that Bev really agreed with me. Not Sunday, but right along live this week. I said that while I will come forward and always try to defend the media, there are people in the media who are a disgrace to the fraternity.
They are their own worst enemy.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say, because I see you at 10 o'clock. I heard you earlier refer to somebody who was on the site. I hadn't heard of that person before. And so I just want to say hello to Velma.
Velma?
And I'm glad, Velma Hutchinson Daniel. And
Okay.
I'm glad she's at the stage in life when she can afford to take a few minutes off on a morning to listen to this program or to view the program or whatever.
Hello, Velma. I haven't seen Velma here before, but welcome. Certainly hope to see a lot more of you. Sharon Elizabeth Roberts Wilshire says you can download the World Report, March 1991. And then Jorge Murillo Yepes says, or not, I'm not going to read this. He puts a URL here, so you can go click on that URL, and hopefully you will wind up with a copy of the World Report, the
Well,
elusive World Report.
that needs some dissemination to remind people that the lessons have not been learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come to think of it, I wonder if anybody in authority in the public service, and particularly in the Ministry of Finance, has implemented the suggestions in the Cheltenham report with regard to the authorization of expenditure and travel and so forth.
Are you holding your breath?
You remember the Cheltenham report?
Yes.
That one had to do with Madame Money?
Yes.
Right.
You know, we should also, we're, John is out there. John has been using a lot of these cliches as fodder for coffee mugs. I now have a coffee mug that says Dogo Day. I have
Already?
Oh yeah. I also have one that says oh yeah.
Something about money.
Money, yes. Kellen Bubb says, George, I believe Grenada has a Freedom of Information Act. Maybe that's a good route to take for bringing sunlight to these hidden resorts.
I think we have a Fiscal Responsibility Act. I believe information falls under the purview of the Minister of National Security. So as long as you have national security, just like 79 to 83, you can always determine that this is a security issue. Don't go there.
I sometimes have to correct people who say, don't go there. It's Dogo Day, man. AB, I'll tell you, we pushed back the national report today, and we have actually given you, I can't believe you have spent 45 minutes with me here today. Are you sick or what?
Nah, you have nothing better to do.
Thanks for your honesty, but you're wrong.
But I will say to you that I think it's important that the national report is circulated or at least excerpted or the information therein should be disseminated, if only for entertainment value.
Okay, we'll keep it there for entertainment value. By the way, Allan, John Nusinek wants to know what mug would you like? Looks like you got yourself a mug, bro.
I'll get back to you on that one.
John, he'll probably come up with a new cliche for you. Anthony Howard says, good morning, George and family. Where is the link to the report? Well, Anthony, if you just scroll back a little bit, I saw a link a few minutes ago put there by Jorge Murillo, https worldcat.org, the Commission of Inquiry into the Conduct and Management of Gravel and Concrete and Emulsion Production Corporation and Roads Division, Ministry of Works. So check it out. Just scroll back a little bit on your Facebook comments there. Thanks, AB.
Okay.
You go do whatever mischief you're going to get into in your retirement, and when I grow up, I want to be like you.
Okay, bye. Have a good day.
Take it easy. Now, there goes Allan. Now, I'm kind of scratching my head because we still haven't done the national report. Let me let me take a little break, a very quick break, and then we'll come back with that report.
In our part of the world, we need to be prepared for natural disasters like storms and hurricanes, even outside of the season. I'm sure you'll agree that keeping our loved ones, homes, and businesses safe is important. So, I came up with a few quick tips to help you stay safe. First, make a family disaster plan and ensure that everyone in your household is familiar and comfortable with it. Remember to add batteries and flashlights to your emergency kit. Now, for electrical safety. Familiarize yourself with your electrical panel, as it may be necessary to switch off the power during a storm or flood. Make sure you install a transfer or isolation switch to prevent your generator feeding electricity to Grenlec's line. If trees are too close to power lines, call Grenlec at 237 for advice. By following these easy steps, you will be well on your way to being hurricane ready. Don't be caught off guard by natural disasters. Prepare now. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this.
Where you get that?
At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who's supporting the environment. That is why I shop in that food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
More Grenadians find employment on Canadian farms. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Wednesday, September 18th, I am Leslie Ann Johnson. Close to 50 Grenadians are now employed on 2 farms in Canada as part of the Canada-Caribbean Seasonal Agriculture Program. 26 men left the island on Saturday on a 2-year contract with 1 farmer, and a further 21 left on Monday on a 6-month contract. The 2 groups comprise a mix of first-time workers and others who have been recalled. Prior to their departure, the men participated in a round-table video conference with officials from the Eastern Caribbean Liaison Service, where they were briefed on the rules and regulations to be adhered to on the farms. Labour Minister the Honourable Peter David says the increased number of men gaining employment on the farms is as a result of the excellent relationship between the farmers and the government through the Ministry of Labor.
Over the years, we've seen many of them go, they repeat, they go, they come, they go, they come. And many of them have been proven so satisfactory that they've nearly become permanent employees of the farmers in Canada. So I want to congratulate this group that has gone out and to urge them to take advantage of the experience, take advantage of the employment, and do it in a way that provides the farmers in Canada with the confidence that Grenadian workers are capable of doing what is necessary to keep the employment.
Minister David says the selection of farm workers is not done by employees in the Ministry of Labor, but by the farmers themselves.
I also want to say to the young people in Grenada that we at the Ministry, we do not decide who goes on the program. What we do, we take the applications, we take the records, we collect the documents, and we provide it to the farmers in Canada, who then come to Grenada and decide for themselves which workers they would like to go on the farm. And they have come and they have done that in most cases. And as I said, in most cases, they have found the workers satisfactory.
He says dialogue continues with consuls general in both Toronto and Montreal to engage stakeholders to create further employment opportunities for Grenada.
In hospitality, in nursing, in home care, areas that in particular for me, I want to see more women have the capacity to take advantage of these Canadian programs. So we are looking for programs where young women and women in general can go to Canada and also have the same opportunities that the young men have been having in a farm labor program. We are working with our consul generals, we are working with our partners in Canada to get that going, and I am confident that over the next several months that will be a possibility, and that will certainly be the outcome of these discussions.
90 men are currently employed on various farms in Canada. As government presses ahead with plans to make St. George's the first climate-smart city in the Caribbean, part of the plan includes working with the St. George's University to ensure it is as climate resilient as possible. The SGU is a major contributor to Grenada's GDP. Addressing Tuesday's post-cabinet briefing, Minister for Climate Resilience, Senator Simon Steele, said while still at the concept stage, the Climate Resilient Cities project will address the vulnerability of a number of areas in the country.
We're working with New York University in the development of the concepts. We've received pre-feasibility support from the GCF to enable us to do this, but it's looking at interventions such as the areas of sea level rise, the vulnerabilities of the Carénage, Grand Anse, Grenville. Solutions engineered, both hard engineered and nature-based solutions to protect those valuable areas, whether it is the protection of Maurice Bishop International Airport, our runways at sea level, highly vulnerable, how we can protect that, and how we can work with St. George's University, which contributes in excess of 20% of our GDP, how we can work with them to ensure that the campus is as climate resilient as possible so that it will sustain as little damage in an extreme event.
He says government is also looking at urban planning to determine how they can address vulnerabilities in some communities that are at risk.
Looking at our road system, how we can reduce congestion, solutions there. And then the areas of capacity building, strengthening government and the private sector's ability to deal with climate change moving forward. It is here to stay, in addition to identifying other community-based solutions.
This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Prepare for hurricane. Prepare for hurricane. Make sure you have your radio and your batteries too. Waterproof flashlight candles will do. Tin stuff, garbage bag, first aid kit. Come on people, make sure you have it. Clean water in a container and a hurricane plan. Hear me no man.
Hurricane damage is beyond your control. Surviving the aftermath is up to you. Have a hurricane plan. It can save your life and your family too.
Prepare for hurricane. Your hair, prepare for hurricane.
Continuing the news, a marriage between tourism and agriculture has been the subject of discussion for some time. The Inter-American Institute for Cooperation in Agriculture, ICA, wants to do its part to make this a reality in Grenada through the development of an agro-tourism policy. Meetings were held over the last 2 days to brainstorm and come up with a plan on the best way forward. Details in this report by Karima Lewis.
Agriculture and tourism have been identified as two major economic sectors that have not been fully optimized, and in an effort to strengthen linkages between the two sectors, the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation in Agriculture, ICA, is in the process of developing an agritourism policy. This OECS initiative has seen workshops taking place in a number of Caribbean countries, Grenada being no exception, as many farmers, fishers, and tourism stakeholders convened at the Radisson Grenada Beach Resort to put ideas forward in a 2-day workshop. The objective of such a venture is to maximize the full potential of the farming, fishing, and tourism sectors, while at the same time encouraging local food use and consumption. ICA representative for the OECS, Greg Rollins, says the prospects for further developing agritourism linkages in Grenada are encouraging.
I should emphasize that the establishment of the agritourism linkages will, however, require significant changes. We need to adopt new approaches. It will not happen automatically. We need to adopt appropriate technologies and sound agribusiness management practices that stimulate increases in productivity, production, and competitiveness to ensure that a consistent and reliable supply of competitively priced primary and value-added products and services to the sector. We need to be able to adhere to stringent food safety, quality, labor, environmental, and other standards.
Minister for Agriculture and Lands, Honorable Yolande Bain Horsford, is confident that local farmers can meet the demand of the tourism sector for meals and beverages.
It is important to note that food represents roughly 30% of the total tourist expenditure, which implies that there is vast potential for local producers. I am confident that our producers of food have the capacity to supply in a consistent manner a major part of the culinary needs of the tourism sector.
Minister for Tourism and Civil Aviation, Honorable Clarice Modeste Cohen, explains that agritourism allows for the natural adaptation of the agriculture and tourism sectors as it provides benefits for all involved.
It brings to light an aspect of community tourism, farm-based tourism, culinary tourism, agro-heritage tourism, agro-eco-tourism, and agro-trade. And therefore it is important for the Ministry of Tourism, as we make a concerted effort to assist in enhancing livelihood, a major aspect of our community-based tourism development program for the coming years.
Presenter at the workshop, Kimberly Thomas-Francois, describes one of the linkages between tourism and agriculture.
Food has allowed, when tourists have a particular link with what they eat, it has allowed repeat guests. And so more or less establishing that linkage actually helps hotel in the sense that the marketing dollar that they have to spend to bring new tourists, they would see repeat guests coming just because of the food.
ICA Hemispheric Specialist in Agritourism, Anna Harvey, explains her role at the workshop.
I'm giving the overall picture on global and international trends in agritourism and food tourism, talking about all of the things that are happening to link agriculture with tourism in all its dimensions, from farm to table, boat to throat, right up to the craft and artisanal sector.
One of the organizers of West Indian Breakfast, Lionel Goddard, explains that one of the benefits that can be derived from this policy is having readily accessible local produce to include in the breakfast sale.
So we think this policy could, one, help our small and medium-sized farmers, give them funding, give them, technical advice, and make the whole process, of farming develop in a much bigger way. And so by our farmers growing, it could help our breakfast also to grow in terms of what we are planning to do and execute.
For the Ministry of Agriculture, I am Karima Lewis.
And finally, several bus drivers from across the country are embracing positive development and safety. They're partnering with the Ministry of Education, Human Resource Development and Religious Affairs as part of the UNICEF-funded Child Friendly Schools initiative. Details from Annette Moore.
The Child Friendly Schools initiative focuses on positive discipline, meaningful student participation, student-centered classrooms, parental and community involvement, and health and family life education. Bus drivers are now displaying banners with child-friendly and positive messages on their buses as an endorsement of this movement. They will also ensure that their buses are safe spaces for children. The drivers were officially recognized during an appreciation ceremony at Spice Basket on September 11th.
Your involvement takes three particular forms that I want to raise. Safety, and in an era where we have increasing levels of child abuse from different angles, it's heartwarming to know that we have drivers among us, drivers who are willing to say, we support child-friendly schools, we support keeping children safe, we support positive discipline, we support the idea of letting them know what needs to happen. So that's one, safety. The second issue is linkage, and linking home, school, and community. When we work with homes and we work in schools, the transportation medium is a very important link between all of this. And if you are partnering with us to ensure that the travel experiences are safe and not emotionally disturbing or anything of that sort, then we're creating a firm, safe link. The third thing is positive discipline. What do I mean by that? When we speak positive discipline, we refer to a style of discipline that is proactive. In other words, it seeks to create the behaviors we want to see. You'd notice on your stickers, the stickers that you have, there are some very positive comments, like I'm ready, be respectful. I don't know which ones you have. Be focused. Whatever is on your bus, you'll see that. All of those are positively stated statements of expectation.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Kevin Andel, further emphasized the importance of bus drivers providing a safe and positive environment for children.
These children travel with you every day. Almost 75% of our school-age children travel on buses. And those who have their parents who drop them off sometimes still have to traverse this country on your buses. And because of that, you have a significant responsibility in regards to the next world, safety, bringing them safe to their destination. And when I say safe, I mean a safe environment. And your buses should be a safe environment for these children. Not only that, it should be a model of positivity, that riding on your buses, they should be exposed to the attitudes and thank you very much, and the behaviors that we wish for them to model.
Ian George, a Grenville St. George's route bus driver, spoke on behalf of the participating bus drivers.
On behalf of the operators, the bus operators, I just want to say thank you very much, and we do appreciate the involvement with the Ministry of Education to have us partner with them in this very important initiative. From what we have learned by listening to your description of what this is all about, I think it's very commendable. In fact, it's a very good initiative that may have been long overdue. There are a lot of reminders here that would help us to make a greater contribution, not just in transporting the young ones, but in helping in their development by providing good, safe environment for the transport.
George also says he hopes that more bus drivers can participate.
Bus drivers, making a difference, keeping our children safe.
Approximately 17 buses are participating thus far, with stickers displayed on 14 buses to date. For the National Report, I'm Annette Moore.
And that's the National Report. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson.
Alrighty, folks, time now to scoot. It's, let's see here, 25 minutes after the hour. We will leave you, as we do every morning, with a parting word from the Holy Scriptures. Today it comes to you from the second book of Corinthians, chapter 12, verses 7 to 10. Therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okie doke, folks. I think that's going to do it for this morning. Wow. Interesting program. Interesting. Spread the word around. And by the way, you can also subscribe to our Facebook channel. It's not going to cost you anything. Just a few seconds of your time. Subscribe on Facebook. You'll be notified whenever something goes up there, which is every day except Saturday. And be sure to join us on Sunday morning for the next edition of Sundays with George Grant. And, of course, weekday mornings right here for Grenada Today. So, Georgie Porgy's going to go. Thank you very much. God bless you.